Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who do not know, I am Allie, and today's video was all going to be about my thoughts on the season finale of The Vow, Season 2. So I'm going to be honest with you guys, this episode was a little bit hard to sit through emotionally, because I felt like there was a redemption arc for some of them, and I definitely, struggle with the people that are still in, because I just don't quite understand how, the writing's on the wall, what more do you need, kind of thing. And I'm reminding myself that, people can't be saved unless they want to be saved. So in this episode, it starts with Camilla. This episode is all about Keith's sentencing. So it starts with Camilla and her story, which we talked about. She's the sister of Daniela, for those of you who don't remember or haven't watched. And she was very clearly in a relationship with Keith of some sort. In the beginning, you don't know if it's exactly sexual, but knowing Keith, you're thinking in your head it is. So that's kind of where we start. And then you realize the prosecution has come across these text messages that show Camilla has been in, that Keith and Camilla were sexual from the time she was 16 to the time that she was basically an adult. She is 27 now, I believe. I'm going to go with. So for me, my first instinct as a parent was to be like, what the hell is wrong with the parents? Who just leaves their 16-year-old with an adult friend of a family or whatever you want to call him? And I'm realizing that through my own healing journey with the situation that I talked about in the last video, it's not as black and white as you think. It's really not as black and white as you think. Not for them and not for her. Because I was also angry with her. I was like, I don't understand why she's not going on the stand at trial being like, this happened to me. And I'm realizing that it's a healing journey. She does end up testifying in court in this episode as to her relationship from 16 to adulthood with Keith. She recognizes that it's not, that it was abuse, that it was what it was, and for that, I give her a round of applause and truly, truly respect what she said in there. It's not easy to come to terms with what happened to you, and it really doesn't, and it's really, really hard when it's a person who has infiltrated your family and has made themselves a friend to your parents and has kind of develop this mentorship with you, and you're sitting there and you're like, but is this what I think it is, kind of thing. It's really, really hard to kind of just go through your emotions with that. And I don't think anyone will ever be able to understand unless you've walked through it. And I give her credit for getting to this point, and her one line where she's like, I am leaving as an adult, but I'm also still 19 years old. And that is key. Keith took a big portion of her childhood away at 16. And at the end of the day, I do not care. At the end of the day, for those that defend him, I'm going to say this now because I need to say this. Yes, Sarah was an adult. Nikki is an adult. Elsa Mack is an adult. India Oxenbrand is not an adult. Camilla was not an adult when this started. Okay? She was not an adult. Yes, I understand that New York State law says consenting adult is that they can consent at 16. She is still a child. She doesn't understand what she's doing. And it's very clear Keith manipulated her. And it's very, very hard to watch and read these text messages that were said in open court in their relationship. And I know that the prosecutors had to do it for their reasons, but it's just really, really hard to sit through. And I commend Camilla for going on the stand and dealing with it. And now I'm going to talk about Nancy. So I'm going to be honest with you. The first 2 episodes, maybe even 3 episodes, maybe even like all 4, I was ready to fight this woman. Because especially when she was like, I'm more mad at Nippy than I am at Sarah than I am at Keith. And I'm like, okay, you are delusional. Like, really? And then when she started to talk about Lauren, like, of course, as a mother, she's pulling at my heartstrings here. And I'm like, okay, maybe she's starting to wake up. But it always felt like she was still trying to defend NXIVM, even in like showing remorse of a situation and like understanding what transpired. And I don't know if it's because at the time of the first 4, she did not know about Camilla yet or what. But it's like this like thing where I'm like, I was like when the Lauren episode happened, I was writing this redemption arc for this woman, and then like she just like kind of like I don't want to say backtrack, but like then she went straight into like defending it, and I'm like, I don't understand. But with this episode, I felt that Nancy like woke up and realized what was going on and realized Keith was what he was. And for me, that was huge. And I think Sarah said it best in a recent interview that it really was like watching somebody come through this, like, I don't even know how she were, I don't remember how the exact wording, but it's like she was waking up on the screen for the world to see. And I hope and pray that she really truly has woken up for the sake of everyone. Keith got sentenced. He is in jail. He has an appeal, and I hope he stays there, and I hope he rots there, and I hope that that's where he ends up. But I want to say something to about one of the people that have been fiercely his loyalist, and that's to Nikki. I'm gonna be frank about Nikki. She's not my favorite person right now. The way she spoke about Camilla, like, turning on Keith, like, really pissed me off in this. But this woman is either in love with this man or she's having a hard time facing the facts. I truly hope, instead of spending the next chapter of her life working so hard to protect something and help someone that's been harmful, I hope she chooses to move forward. I don't know if that means that she comes to and understands that Keith is a horrible human being or what. I do hope she heals, and I do hope she wakes up to that realization, but I also hope that she's able to move forward, because 100 and something years is a very long time to wait for some person to save you. It's just not gonna happen. And I hope that he comes to the realization, I hope that she comes to the realization and changes her life and for the better. And then it talks about the other ones getting sentenced. And I wanted to spend a little bit of time here on Allison Mack, because somebody said something in this documentary that really hit home for me, because I've always struggled with Allison Mack's role in this situation, because especially from, like, you know, seeing child stars that I grew up with, like her, go left. Like, a lot of them have died, a lot of them have overdosed, a lot of them have been in situations where it's been so bad. And I've always felt that Allison was vulnerable because she didn't have a childhood. Maybe I'm wrong, I'm not a psychologist, but I've always felt this, like, very, like, she's very vulnerable, she's very in a situation where, like, she's not, you know, didn't get a typical childhood, she worked her whole childhood. That doesn't make her a bad person. It just is the reality. But I'm also like, so on one hand, I believe she's a victim, but she also caused harm. And I'm happy that she denounced Keith Raniere in her letter to the court. I'm glad that she did those things, and I'm glad she apologized. I just hope she means it and like is doing enough self-reflection to never put herself in this position again. And I just don't understand her. I really wish Allison Mack would talk to somebody truthfully, to be honest with you guys, to be frank with you guys here, because I feel like a lot of people have had their chances to talk to people. You know, there was the Indian Oxenberg documentary, which I loved her perspective. It was like truly great. You know, she gave voices to others. There was The Vow, and I feel like Allison Mack, for whatever reason, I don't know if she's been offered to talk, but I feel like she's just kind of been like, you know, kind of, I don't want to say in limbo, but like she's kind of like dodged the press. And I feel like I wish somebody that like could be trusted from the media to have a conversation with her. Because I really feel like The Vow did a really good job of respecting everybody, whether they were still in or out. And I really, really want that experience for Allison. And I feel Allison has, I would just love to hear from her. Maybe selfishly for myself, to try and figure out how I feel about her right now. But I'm really torn on her, because I'm like, where's the line between victim and perpetrator? And like, when does it blur to the point of like, she was a victim, she was manipulated into doing this, but does that make her pure evil? Like, I don't know. And I really, really struggle with Allison. I'm kind of like at a place with Allison that I don't know how to feel about her. And I don't know really if that's going to change. I don't know if she's ever going to do an interview. I don't know if that's in her realm of thinking right now, but I definitely just wish that she could. I wish I could have more of an answer on her, more clarity on her. I don't know if it's because, like I said, I grew up with watching her, or if it's just because like I feel like there's redemption in everybody to some extent, and maybe that's like what I'm looking for here, but I don't know. Claire Brofman was sentenced as well. I'm gonna save Claire Brofman for a different video, because I was told by a commenter on one of my videos that there was a TNT episode about her, and I watched it, and I'm gonna make a separate video on her, because Claire Brofman I feel like Claire Brofman's not really talked about. Like, she's talked about, but I don't feel like she's one of like the key inner circle that's talked about in this. So I have a whole different perspective on her now that I watched it, and I definitely plan on doing a separate video on just that episode. I'm going to talk about Lauren for a minute here again. I'm truly glad that Lauren didn't end. So, although in my mind, Lauren did some horrific things, and it's the worst thing she did in her life that she said in her testimony, at first, honestly, I wanted her to go to jail. I really, really did. But looking at her episode and her testimony, I didn't feel that was right for her. I felt like she needed more help, more of the mental capacity to get unindoctrinated and to get the help she needed. And I didn't know if that was actually going to happen after watching that episode. But I will say I give Sarah a lot of credit for even writing a letter to the judge about Lauren, because I know that had to have been hard for her, given the betrayal that I'm sure Sarah has felt and Sarah still feels. And just because somebody betrays you doesn't mean you don't care. It's not that black and white like the world seems to think it is. So it's definitely something that I think, I don't know if I would have been able to do, but I'm really glad Sarah did it. As for Nancy, she was sentenced as well. She is going to jail. I hope that she is truly waking up and that she truly heals from this situation. And I truly hope that the end of this, with Nancy waking up and Nancy realizing that Keith is a monster, stays that way. And that's kind of just all that I really have to say about that. Like I said, this was an emotional roller coaster. This is definitely different for my channel. These are definitely something different for my channel, but everyone's enjoying them. So I think I'm going to find something else to comment on. I don't know what yet in regards to documentary, but I'm leaning towards like some commentary stuff. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up if you do. If you're not subscribed, please go and subscribe, believe me, and I will see you all next time.